places where the popes decided to display their collection of art. Imagine that back at the beginning of 1500s, this place was a garden, a beautiful garden. Then it was a little changed, a little renovated back in the 1700s, okay? And so it became more a courtyard than a garden. But that's the place where the most important pieces of collection of art of the popes in terms of statues, they are displayed even today. So one of them is just in front of us. Now this statue over here, Apollo, of course, Apollo del Belvedere. Belvedere was the courtyard where first it was displayed. It's a Roman replica of a Greek statue. Now it dates back to the 2nd century after Christ, but the original one, made by Leocares, Greece, dated back to the 4th century before Christ. Now we know a lot about the ancient Greek statues because the Romans copied most of the statues, especially marble. Usually, especially the classical art statues in Greece used to be made of bronze. So the bronze, especially once the Christians took over, it started to be melted down and recycled for weapons. But this gives us also the chance to talk a little bit about the concept of the Romans in terms of art. At the very beginning, the Romans didn't appreciate art that much. The Romans were practical people, so they focused a lot on engineering and architecture, for example. For example, the arch was invented by the Romans. The streets that were opened by the Romans, like the old Dacian way, opened back in 4th century before Christ. Why? To move the army fast, or to move the merchants fast. That was practical reasons. Sewage system, the aqueducts for water, to bring the water to the town. Okay, so they focused on these kind of things. Art was considered for lazy people at the beginning. Then once they got in contact with the Greeks and the Egyptians, that's when they started to appreciate art. But then that's when they started to steal pieces of art to bring it to Rome, and that's when they started to copy the pieces of art. So they started to appreciate art a lot. So that's why we have a lot of copies of ancient Greek pieces. Now, these copies, for a long time, they were not even considered copies. For example, Michelangelo's time, but even later, okay, 1700s, for example, everybody was kind of sure that those were the original Greek pieces, okay? Later on, once they started to study a little more and they started to have more technique, of course, they realized that those were made a little later. We're still talking about something that dates back to 1900 years ago. So it's not something new, actually, but it's not the original one, which is back to the 4th century before Christ. Now, Apollo was considered perfection, you can see. In this case, it was represented with an arch on his end and the arrow on the other hand. Okay? But still, even if he's moving, it doesn't look like he's making too much efforts. Okay? So that was the classical art. Not showing the idea, not showing the real thing. Not showing the real movement, not showing, for example, what we're going to see in a while, because the things change. In a few centuries, the things change a lot. Now, this statue was in the private collection of art of Pope Julius. Okay, so the same Pope that commissioned to Michelangelo the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. And try to remember that face and that haircut. Okay, because once we'll be in the Sistine Chapel, you're going to see that Michelangelo took inspiration from that face and that haircut for the face and the haircut of Jesus in the Last Judgment. It's exactly like that. And that, the reason why I told you before, Michelangelo was a sculptor. So even when he was painting, he took inspiration from statues. Now try to imagine that Michelangelo started to work at the Sistine Chapel in 1508. So it was here. And it was here when they started to display these statues. And he was here, when the Pope Julius became Pope, and that was one of the pieces that belonged to his collection. So imagine the reaction that Michelangelo had for the first time when he saw an original Greek or Roman piece. He was amazed by those things. So that's why he took inspiration from statues, even when he was painting, because most of all he was a sculptor. Okay? Oh, those things here, those are used to be coffins. And later on transformed into bathtubs. You can tell by the whole drainage, of course. Okay? Now, you know what? It's not that nice to bath in a coffin, but I wouldn't do that, but the Romans loved those kind of things. And some of the pieces that come from the thermal baths, like that one, the green piece over there, comes from Caracalla thermal baths. It's beautiful. Now, we've been talking about this piece, which dates back to the second after Christ. Now we're going to move to something that dates back to the first before Christ, original Greek, and you will see how the things change a lot. Okay? Andiamo.
Средний возраст 90 лет. Американские туристы вот доживают до пенсии и потом путешествуют. Вот так вот сижу на скамеечке, подходит экскурсия, становится экскурсовод передо мной, ножку отставляет в сторону, начинает все рассказывать, я его вам записала. Так что будет отдельное видео на английском языке. Но я за ними не пойду следом, потому что это, зачем? Вот, так что такие дела.